Hey everybody, it's Brady from Late Weather Forecast, and tonight we'll be doing another video update on Hurricane Sam as it is and has rapidly intensified into a major Category 4 hurricane currently at 145 miles per hour. So definitely intensifying at a pretty rapid rate as just last night it was, I believe, a Category 2 hurricane at this time. I want to say I believe so. So it is definitely taken off in intensity, and as you can see here, it's a little bit, it's central dense overcast, or its CDO, has started to improve and cool after it peaked a little bit earlier today, and then it has managed to looks like bounce back a little bit as it's taking advantage of Dmax, and I've explained before in previous updates, but Dmax is just when it's the peak time in terms of when convection can really pop for more specifically tropical cyclones. So that's something we look for, and Dmin is a low peak in terms of when convection is least favorable to pop. So that's kind of one way to look at Dmin and Dmax, and a lot of times tropical cyclones intensify more at night because they take advantage of Dmax. So that nice little fact if you did not know that already, but we can see it's a very rapid, looks like a lot of spinning happening is what all you're seeing right now. So we'll take this over to the National Hurricanes interview. It's currently 145 miles per hour. You could argue stronger. There was a bit debatable in terms of the intensity tonight in that discussion, but they're definitely, regardless, it doesn't matter. It's a very powerful Category 4 hurricane. Could be bordering Category 5 pretty soon if it continues at its current rate of intensification without any eyewall replacement cycles, which looks like there aren't any happening in the near future, which is a good sign in terms of its intensification. Not a good sign in terms of whoever does see this is probably going to get a really strong storm. It will be weaker. It will not be a Category 5 hurricane or even a strong Category 4 hurricane. It won't, can't rule it out if it's gonna hit Bermuda or something. Can't rule out a Category 4 hurricane for Bermuda, but we will be watching it very closely, as beyond the 5-day mark there's still a lot of uncertainty. As we were watching, I went through last night. I'm not gonna go into it as much tonight. Try and keep this video a lot shorter and quicker, because also we'll upload a lot faster as well. But we are looking at the 5-day cone track, and I mentioned we were watching in a ULL, an upper level low feature that's going to be sliding south into across the southeastern United States and into potentially across just west of Bermuda. So that is something we're going to be watching how that unfolds, because the GFS looks like models are really struggling with the upper air pattern and struggling with the mid-level ridging at 500 millibars and higher. They're really struggling with it right now, and beyond that 4 to 5 day period. So I do not want to go much further and show a bunch of model paths tonight, model runs tonight, and just focus on the path currently for Sam in the near term and future. The Leeward Islands looks like they're going to miss this. That is the good sign. They're not going to see some sort of Irma storm. We all know what Irma did to the northern part of the Leeward Islands. That was very devastating, no doubt, but luckily we're going to be able to avoid that. Puerto Rico, we're not going to have to worry about that. Hispaniola, not a concern. And the Bahamas, looks like you're going to be able to avoid any of this. And I think we can pretty much safely say at this point that Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and probably even North Carolina are likely all out of the potential area of concern. I can't quite rule out New England yet, just because I don't think anybody should quite rule out New England yet, just in case. There are there could be a lot of changes in model developments, because they are struggling quite significantly, and we're still 7-8 day plus 8 days out from potential time frame where the storm could be making impacts. So anywhere from Bermuda, Atlantic Canada, and New England should be aware of what is happening right now in northeast Atlantic Canada. So that includes Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, uh, uh, New England, Northeast, as I mentioned. All those areas should be watching for potential, at least some impacts from the storm. The whole East Coast should be prepared for. In the Bahamas, in Puerto Rico, and Hispaniola, and the Leeward Islands should be watching for very strong waves, big swells to be impacted. Even though it is a smaller tropical cyclone, as you can see, those very small area tropical storm force winds, and it's a very much smaller area of hurricane force winds and major hurricane force winds. They're very confined, but you should expect some larger swells than usual to impact the whole coastline in the Western Atlantic. That is one thing that is for certain. We'll slide back here and we get an updated view. Let me refresh this, just because I'm looking at it too, and it does look very, very nice right now in terms of its satellite presentation. But what do we want to go to here? We'll show you recon. If I zoom in here, it doesn't show you much other than it's really small, right? The area, as I was just mentioning, it's very confined, those hurricane force winds, and they were able to find a pressure in the low 940s, low to mid 940s the whole time when they were in there, as it's now starting to track its way more to the northwest. This is a good feature here. We can see, I don't know why it extends out this far, but the cone is, I promise you the cone is not into the Leeward Islands, but we can see the projected future track of this. And right now it's looking pretty spot on in terms of the National Hurricane Center forecast. It's been tracking its way, well, westward, west-northwest, and starting to move a little bit more northwest, but I still think it has a pretty good west-northwest track, even though National Hurricane Center designated it for some reason northwest in one of those last advisories. Is it back to west-northwest? Yeah, it had northwest for one of the advisories earlier today, but back to west-northwest, 8 miles an hour, so I'm not sure we're looking for any upwelling here, but it should be moving fast enough that we not too overly focused on any potential upwelling impacts. That would be more if the storm was stalling out, which it is not doing. I have not seen a powerful hurricane stall out in the MDR in a long time, or I don't think ever. So that is that. We also do have a very powerful typhoon currently in the Westpac, which I will just cover very briefly, even though it's not our area. It's currently 160 miles per hour and 917 millibars as of 0Z. So that was a while ago, almost 6 hours ago now. So new update should come in. I bet this thing's probably at least, I'd be surprised if this thing isn't approaching to 175 miles per hour by now, but somewhere around that range. It's a super typhoon, very strong, powerful storm impacts. Again, large disruptive waves in the Western Pacific Ocean are expected. I don't know the specific impacts for certain islands though, but please, if you know anybody that lives, in the Taiwan or even Japan, give them a heads up. Make sure they know that there are impacts of what to expect from this storm. Not going to be too useful, but some of the things that are helping this environment, we can see it's pretty good. It does have a little bit of westerly shear that has increased. This isn't always the most accurate, but we do have a little bit of westerly shear that is impacting this storm. And when it was noticeable earlier today, but it looks like it's starting to recover as storm's outflow has increased and gotten a bit better. It's been able to expand its central dense overcast tonight, or it's otherwise known as its CDO, and been able to improve its satellite presentation and likely intensify a little bit more. I'm guessing it's probably approaching, if not in the 930 millibar range, potentially. It was 943 millibars last advisory. So I can't imagine it's at least not somewhat intensified from when Recon was last in there. And Recon will get back in there in a few hours, and we'll be able to, might be a little bit longer than that, but Recon will get back in there and will provide some valuable data tomorrow morning for the current intensity of what this storm will be. But it's a pretty low shear environment. It's pretty high moisture. If I switch it over to back here, we will be able to see water vapor, and we'll update that. And there we go. We see dry air off to the west, but it's created its nice own moisture field. I was a little bit skeptical at first that it would be able to intensify with all this Saharan air really possibly getting entrained to the core. And at first it was, a couple days ago, even yesterday morning, hell, it was sitting around hurricane status, low-end hurricane status for a while as some dry air is working to its core, but then later in the afternoon is able to take off more and really start to get going and intensify a good amount. And we can see now it's created its nice own moisture field, and dry air still made a little bit of an impact in the storm, but it's created a good enough moisture bubble that it's been able to sustain its convection and not have to worry about major dry air intrusions that are affecting the core and the eye wall. So, and lots of lightning too. Notice that the GLM flash count picking up on a lot of lightning strikes in that inner eye wall. It's been happening all day long. We've even been seeing some wind gusts, and some of the drop zones I found, wind gusts in excess of over 200 miles per hour at around 911 millibars in the atmosphere. So that's just above that 925 millibar level in the atmosphere that I sometimes show on some sort of plots. I'm sure I've shown that level to you before in terms of flow level vorticity. I think I did last night even. But very healthy, small, compact tropical cyclones. So what we look for in small tropical cyclones is they're susceptible to rapid changes in development in the core. So we look for, as fast as it can intensify, it can also see structural changes in a negative way to impact this storm in terms of its intensity just as fast. So we've seen some of that play out tonight as it was affected a little bit by just some subtle, like probably 10 to 15 knot westerly shear even, which was able to impact the storm a little bit, and it could have been even a little bit more than that. Maybe it might have been a little bit more subtle, but somewhere in the mid-level of the atmosphere, it was feeling a little bit of effects from some sort of wind shear, a little bit of dry air affecting it. But in these smaller tropical cyclones, these things can really get going fast, and Sam has used that to its advantage for the most part over the last few days, going from a tropical depression to a near hurricane within 12 hours a few days ago, and going from a Category 2 to a going from a Category 1 to a Category 4 in 24 hours as well. So this storm it has been a little bit of a headache to forecast beyond the five-day period, but we'll attack that beast when it needs to be. For now, know that this is a very powerful, strong Category 4 hurricane, and it is not a threat. It is not an imminent threat to land. That's all that matters right now. There will be some impacts for the East Coast, regardless if it's just swells or if it's some actual more direct impacts are still unknown at this time. It appears for now models are suggesting that it will not be a direct hit for the East Coast, but and for the Northeast, but that could change. You never know, so I don't want to rule anything out at this point, as we're still too far away to make any foregone conclusions of what this storm will be doing. And but Atlantic Canada, Nova Scotia is very much at play right now for more direct impacts than the Northeast. So and Bermuda as well. Bermuda is not out of the woods with this storm, but one thing that will be to its advantage is it's a smaller storm, so it gives a less chance for Bermuda to take a more direct hit. Unlike Larry, which was a larger storm, and it was able to, even though it was much farther away, it was able to extend its impacts to a much broader reach. It was able to extend some of those tropical storm force winds to Bermuda and gave them some interesting weather for a day. So that is the difference between Sam and Larry for folks in Bermuda wondering. But again, powerful Category 4 hurricane, not an imminent threat to land. That's what matters most. And I will try to be providing more video updates in the upcoming days as we continue to monitor this very violent storm sitting out in the main development region right now, just east of the Leeward Islands. I hope you all have a good night, or a good morning for that matter, and stay safe and peace out.